Hello, and thank you for tuning into the Word. Today I would like to encourage you and let you know that God's grace is sufficient for you. In 2 Corinthians 12:7, Paul said, "At least I should, or would not be exalted above measure, or become too proud through the abundance of the revelations of the spiritual things God has shown me," as he showed Paul in 2 Corinthians 11:23 through 27. Paul said, "There was given to me a thorn in the flesh, or in my nature, the messenger or the angel of Satan, to buffet, to weaken, or to mock me, lest I should be exalted above measure, or think that I am better than anyone else." See, Paul knew the thorn in his flesh was a direct result of the revelations he received from the Lord. In 2 Corinthians 12:1, Paul said, "It is not expedient or beneficial for me, doubtless, when nothing is gained, to glory. I will come to boast about the visions and the revelations of the Lord." See, as Christians, we should never think of ourselves as being better than what we are, because who we are Christians, one sinner saved by grace. In Romans 12:3, Paul says, "For every man not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, according as God has dealt to every man the measure of faith." And although Paul never mentioned what the thorn in his flesh was, we do know nothing good comes from the flesh. In Romans 7:8, Paul says, "I know that in me, that is in my flesh, dwelleth no good thing." However, what we do know is that it was a message from Satan. And as 1 Peter 5:8 says, "Your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion on the prowl, walking about seeking whom or whoever he may devour." And then in 2 Corinthians 12:8, Paul says, "For this thing, for this weakness, I besought, or I begged, or I pleaded with the Lord 3 times, that it might depart or leave from me." See, at this moment, Paul knew the Lord had allowed Satan to rock the very foundation of who he was. So he prayed 3 times, not realizing God heard him the first time, and Paul just wasn't ready to receive the answer. And what was God's answer to Paul? No. But God to know is not a rejection, but a redirection to direct you in the way in which you should go. In Psalms 32:8, the Lord says, "I will instruct thee and teach thee in the way in which thou should go." Then in 2 Corinthians 12:9, Paul says, "And he said unto me, My grace or my goodness is sufficient, or it is enough for you. For my strength and my power is made perfect even in your weakness." Then Paul said, "Most gladly I am happy, therefore will I rather glory. Therefore will I rather brag or boast in my infirmities or my weaknesses or my temptations, that the power of Christ may rest or reside or live upon me." Today's word is, it doesn't matter what the thorn in your flesh may or may not be. What does matter is that the enemy desires to see you bound. But know this, Christ wore our thorns as a crown of glory on the cross. Therefore, there is nothing that we go through that Christ hasn't already been through for us. Hebrews 4:15 says, "We have not a high priest who cannot be touched with the feelings of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted like as we was, yet was without sin." So when the enemy comes to buffet or to weaken you, know that God's grace is able to sustain and keep you. You be blessed.